75. I'm asking the committee to pass it out of committee favorably and for a vote in the House. Most of what I wanted to say has already been said here. I'm a honorably retired peace officer. I was licensed, I think, in 1989, a long time ago. And I'm still a licensed master peace officer by the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. And I saw law enforcement come in here and address it. And I think that you're probably aware there are two classes of law enforcement. There's real police who make us safer and our families safer. And then there's snowflake pencil pushers who wind up coming down here and lobbying like this. The real police that are out on the streets, when they contact an individual in a traffic stop or what, they automatically assume that that individual's armed. And as far as stopping somebody, the real police will be able to make contact, have a conversation, and evaluate it. Bad guys smell different. And the police can smell them. Real police can. That's it.
Thank you. And are you Mr. Schaefer?
Rachel Malone, Justine Benavides, and Heather Hill. And then on deck, we've got Brandon Michael Davis, Susan Dantzler, and John Britton. Your name, please?
I'm David Ahmed.
Can you tell us your... Oh, okay. So, well, hold on. 1 second. You want to go ahead? Just 1 second. Is Rachel Malone? Yeah. Come on, Rachel. How about Miss Hill?
No, I just didn't hear I was on deck. You're good.
Come on.
My name is Rachel Malone.
No, hold on.
Sorry.
Mr. Ahmad, go ahead.
My name is David Ahmed. I'm the Vice President of Open Carry Texas. I'm representing myself and that organization, and I'm here to testify for 375. I've heard a lot of emotional arguments against this bill, so I thought I'd argue for it with a few cold, hard facts. And it's as simple as this. In 1995, we got licensed concealed carry. It was said there was going to be blood in the streets. That never happened. That is a fact, and everyone here knows it. 2009, we got the Texas Motorist Protection Act. That allows anyone who can legally own a gun to legally carry that gun in their vehicle. They said that there was going to be shootouts and chaos. That never happened. That is a fact, and everyone here knows it. Last session, we got open carry. They said it was going to take us back to the Wild West. That never happened. That is a fact, and everybody here knows it. So eventually, when we do get constitutional carry, and we will, because we're never going to stop, you know what's going to happen? Nothing. And that is a fact, and everybody here knows it.
I've got a question for you, sir. So if nothing's going to happen, why don't we just stay pat?
I'm sorry?
I mean, if nothing's going to happen, why don't we just stand? In other words, if nothing's nothing, why don't we just stay pat where we are?
I'm a little confused, sir. Are you asking why do anything if it's...
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like, and I mean, again, I'm just kind of following what you're saying to its logical conclusion. I agree with you. You know, there's a lot of hyperbole on both sides of the issue.
Right.
So if it doesn't make a difference, you know, it's 6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other, what are we doing?
Oh, it's not 6 on one hand and half a dozen on the other. Right now, in order to do what I should be just simply allowed to do because it's my right, I have to jump through hoops and pay a bunch of money. I have to ask permission that I should not have to ask for. It's as simple as that.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm not done. I got one more question. Did you hear Mr. Glossop when he said that about the training and criminals don't need training? Would you agree with me that the training has to do not so much with being able to deal with a criminal, but how to actually handle the gun, meaning loading it, how to properly point it, how to keep it from discharging, how to keep from shooting yourself in the foot.
That's right.
You know, how to point it up. Mm-hmm. You know, how to check if there's a round in the chamber, how to take it apart, how to clean it.
That's right.
And also learning where and when are the places that you can carry it, some of the safety issues. Not necessarily how to be, you know, I don't know, Dirty Harry, but learning how to handle the gun.
How to use it properly.
Right. And so we can distinguish training, SEAL training or how to be a cop training from actually handling the gun, right?
That's right.
And the majority of us have to, at some point, we're not born and all of a sudden we pick up a firearm and, we're spinning it around and taking it apart and putting it back together. We don't do that, right? A child doesn't just pick up a gun and start figuring out how to do that. They learn.
No,
it.
you have to learn how.
Okay, and so you would agree with me at some point that has to be taught.
Yes, absolutely.
And at some point, not only does it have to be taught, but it has to be demonstrated that you can actually do it, right?
Yes, sir. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think folks carry a gun?
Hold on. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Is you testify and we ask the questions and you answer it.
Okay.
I'll answer your question out there, but not here.
Okay, so
No, right now.
do I get to respond to your question?
You can answer the question.
Okay, my answer to the question is very simply this. People carry a gun because they want to stay alive. And in order to stay alive, to use that gun to defend yourself, you have to know how to use it.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that, which means that people go and learn how to use that gun long before they apply for a license. Someone who goes and applies for a license already knows how to use a gun. And by the way, have you ever taken the license to carry class?
Yeah.
There's very little gun instruction. It's mostly a law class.
I've got a concealed permit, but my point being is it's got to get taught somewhere.
I absolutely agree with you.
Thank you.
And my response to that is gun owners want to be taught. We naturally seek that out. We don't want to carry that gun around as a showpiece. It's a tool, and we need to know how to use that tool, so we learn all on our own. We don't need daddy government to tell us that.
I think, Mr. Navarez, you should actually change your profession to fortune teller, because last session you said we'd be back, and you were right.
I'm good like that. Huh?
I want to start off by reading a quote here. When firearms are openly carried by untrained individuals, it is less likely that these individuals will properly retain control of their weapons. Therefore, others are able to easily disarm carriers in order to use the weapons against innocent bystanders. Allowing the carry of deadly weapons could cause the escalation of disagreements between citizens and could lead to increased incidents of violence and deadly weapons in the state of Mississippi. Take out the state of Mississippi and you're hearing the exact same arguments here in Texas. Well, the same people that made those claims, Ken Winter, who was the director of the State Association of the Chiefs of Police, and this was about the constitutional carry bill in Mississippi, was asked about this a few years after the law was passed, and then he had to say this: it's been kind of a non-issue. So we don't have to guess. We've got all these people in here that have been wrong time and time again. Law enforcement has come in here since 1995 and testified against every pro-gun bill that widened our rights, and they've been wrong every single time. They have zero credibility. Now, I'm not attacking law enforcement, but they have zero credibility on gun issues. Zero. Because they have been wrong consistently. You can listen to their testimony and see what really happened, and there you have it. I would also like to say that the cleat is wrong. They do not have the authority to just stop somebody and demand to see their IDs.
I'm sorry, Mr. Grisham, your time's up.
Okay. So I'll just finish with Terry v. Ohio and Northrop v. Toledo Police Department.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Please state your name, who you represent, and if you're testifying on, for, or against HB
Wait a minute.
375. He registered, and we will just tell you, having worked with you before, we are strictly enforcing the 2-minute rule.
I'll talk real slow. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time, members. My name is Matt Schaefer. I'm representing myself, and I am very much in favor of House Bill 375. Proud to be a joint author on the bill. I wanted to testify as a citizen out of respect for so many people who showed up to do just that. I thought it was incumbent upon me to step over here to say that this is really important, and I'm just blown away by how many people came to testify for and against this bill. It really speaks well to who we are as a people. I have seen freedom lost. I have been to Afghanistan. I have seen freedom lost, and that freedom was lost at the point of a gun by people who had the guns, taking freedom away from people who didn't. I've seen the extreme, and I never, ever want anybody to see that or to live that. And I do believe that the history of mankind is one of struggle and of violent struggle at times. And many times it is the gun is the difference between freedom and not. The Second Amendment was not written to protect hunting. It was written to protect us against a tyrannical government. And we do have a fee on the license to carry, and it's really a tax. And it's been said that the power to tax is the power to destroy. And I don't believe we should be taxing freedoms like this. So, Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for your work on this, and thank you so much for the opportunity to testify as a citizen today.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on? Start with Mr. Watkins.
Yes, thank you. Corey Watkins.
State your name, who you represent, and if you're testifying on, for, or against.
Yes, sir. Corey Watkins. I'm testifying on 375. I'm for it, and I'm representing myself. I just want to say that we do not live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic, and what that means is if every single legislator up here and every single person behind me wanted to regulate or put some kind of restriction on the right to keep and bear arms, that restriction is null and void. You can't do that. We have a right that is guaranteed to us by our Creator, and it's protected by the Constitution. The Constitution is clear when it says shall not be infringed. That means that no legislator, no government official has a right to put any regulation or restriction against our right. I find it kind of crazy that I can walk around with my AK-47, which I do on a regular basis, with a 40-round magazine loaded, one in the chamber. But I can't simply put a Glock 19 on my hip and carry it around. I have to have a license, and I have to ask my government for permission and pay a tax to do that. I've been walking around with an AK-47 for the last 4 or 5 years, no problems at all. And I feel like, I would be much more comfortable and better off if I could do that with my Glock. I noticed that one of the police officers said something about training.
I'm sorry, but your time's up. Can you wrap it up?
Yes, I can.
And by the way, I finally found something I agree with you on. I find it crazy that you can walk around with that gun too.
Right.
Go ahead, wrap it up, bud.
I went by your office and I didn't put my foot in your door this time.
Let's wrap it up, dude.
All right. The police officer was talking about safety and training and stuff like that, and then she later admitted that the training that's going on right now really is no training at all. So, thank you.
Thanks, Corey. Good seeing you again, by the way.
He's a tyrant.
All right. Any questions, members? And again, I'll say this is we're doing real good up to now, and so let's just keep doing that again. Any questions, Mr. Watkins? No? All right, we got Mr. Clem.
Michael Cargill, the Executive Director for Texans for Accountable Government, speaking for Texans for Accountable Government and also myself. Typically, I'm speaking in neutral. I'm neutral of the bill. Yes, this is the first time I've actually, the 14 years that I've been coming to this building, that I've actually spoken neutral for a pro-gun Second Amendment bill. And that's because the state of Texas is actually number 26 when it comes to pro-gun legislation. We're number 26. We're in the bottom of the United States. We're not in the top 10. We're not in the top 5. We're not in the top 20. I'm glad today that we are talking about undoing laws that were enacted back in the 1800s by this body, the Jim Crow laws, by saying that, freed slaves could not own any guns. We're actually undoing that today, and I'm glad we're getting into that. What I do not like about this bill is this bill says that, hey, if someone is charged with a felony, that means that they will lose their gun rights. That means that Ken Paxton would lose his gun rights because he's been charged. That means Tom DeLay would lose his gun rights because he's been charged. That means former Governor Rick Perry would lose his gun rights. But then he would have to petition in that time frame, he would have to petition under this bill, petition a judge, and actually to get his rights for his handgun license. So, that's why I'm opposed to this. We've got to fix that. Those are things that we really need to address and fix. Also, if a spouse, I go home tonight late, which I probably am, and my spouse says, you know what, I think we need to get a divorce, and by the way, I'm going to file that paperwork, and, automatically I will get a restraining order put on me. So that means I'm going to lose my gun rights for 5 years. These are things that we need to fix. If we get into the business of actually changing the requirements for the handgun license, we're going to lose our reciprocity with at least 5 states. I know for a fact 5 states are going to yank their reciprocity from the state of Texas if we get into removing those requirements for the handgun license and start messing with that.
You may not be the right person, or you may be. So talk to me about what reciprocity requires.
There are quite a few things. We have a long list of items here that not just, there are some states, you pick Ohio, you pick Virginia. There are some states that say, hey, you can do, just about anything. Georgia, Florida, great. But then there are some other states like Nevada. We'll never get reciprocity with Nevada. There are other states that, that if we start yanking some of these things from, and they're going to have to do their homework back there. I'm not going to make it easy on them. But there are 5 states I know for a fact that are going to rip the reciprocity from the state of Texas. How many states do we
have reciprocity with today?
We have quite a few, over 20 states that we have reciprocity with right now that recognize our handgun license. This bill is a very dangerous bill, and that's why I'm speaking on the bill, not in support of the bill.
Got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Navarez.
How do reciprocity agreements come about? Are they issued by the governor's office or the legislature, or how are they done?
Yeah, that's going to be by like the AG, and they get with the other state, and they work all those details out.
And I'm not trying to be funny, but how do you know for a fact that that's going to happen? Like, who do you?
Because I've actually reached to other states, and I've actually talked to their states.
So I wonder if we do it like a compact, or if it just.
I mean, not to diminish your testimony, but I just think we're far away from that. Like, we're not.
Well, we'll find out once this bill passes.
Let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
And by that time, we'll have to wait 2 years.
I wonder if there's a resource witness here that might know. Okay.
But I mean, I think you're right. It's a compact.
You know what we ought to do? We ought to get someone here to come and testify next week and just explain that to us. Because I've had several people say if you do certain things, you're going to risk losing reciprocity. And I'll be honest with you, I'm confused on how that is set up.
I'll give you an example, like for lawyers. Like I'm licensed in Arizona through a compact, but it's done through the state bar, not through us or it's the agency.
Yeah, I would like to. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's see if we can't find somebody to come in next week, and you know more about it than anybody up here. I'm very confident.
And HB 375, we don't have that problem with. We have this problem with 1911.
Well, we may just try to get a resource witness in here next week from somewhere to kind of walk us through that, because that's a risk, and that's one of the big selling points to wanting to get a license to carry is that you can carry freely in other states. So let's just do that. I see someone in the distance back there that I think could help us find somebody to come in and testify next week. I'm sorry. Nope. You can't testify, but I'm just want to talk to you about it later. Somebody you could recommend maybe, or maybe we need to get the AG's office in or DPS or somebody. I don't know. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
That's all I have to say. Thank you, sir.
Good. Thank you both for being here.